This story is about a man who crash lands on a deadly planet and unknowingly enters the territory of its most feared predator. But instead of being torn apart, the unimaginable happens, leaving everyone watching stunned. The apex predator of Vor was no myth. For 37 cycles, the sentients of orbiting station Luma 9 kept their distance from the planet's surface. Vor was a lush, atmospheric jewel, ideal for colonization, with breathable air and mild seasons if not for the beasts that ruled it. Observation logs were grim, clawed-out exploration drones, crashed survey crafts blackened by fire, motionless heat signatures vanishing in the predator's territory. Its domain spanned nearly 1/6 of the continent, bordered by thickets of iron tree forest and the Red Basin, where grasses grew tall and copper-colored like fresh blood. It had no known species name. No one lived long enough to classify it. Flight technician Roel stepped into the command gallery clutching a tablet, his blue scales dulled with worry. "Unscheduled entry detected," he said, antenna twitching. Commander Halv turned from the viewport. "From where?" Roel pulled up the orbit grid. "Sector 8K, one ship, small, human registry, no call sign or transponder." The words dropped like stones in the room. For a moment, no one spoke, then everyone did. "Warn them," Halv barked. "All channels. Use human dialect variants A through F." "Already hailing," Ruel replied. "No response. They're dropping through the mesosphere." The air pressure in the gallery felt like it spiked. Halv's crest rippled uneasily. "Trajectory." Roel hesitated. "Straight into the Red Basin." Halv froze. "Impossible. They must have coordinates wrong." The screen confirmed it. The human ship cut neatly through the cloud deck, its belly glowing red hot. Not military. No escort, no armor plating. Just a light payload planetary surveyor, old and patch-repaired, clearly retrofitted by hand. It touched down at the edge of the basin and vented steam. The crew waited. A man stepped out. No suit, no weapons. A small backpack, civilian cut, held loosely over one shoulder. He looked around as if he'd landed at a campsite, gave a short cough, then wandered toward the brush. "Get visuals," Halv snapped. "How is he not armed? Where is his escort?" "No escort. No distress ping. No signal trace. He's not responding to comms. Either his comm unit's broken or—" Roll trailed off. "Or he's ignoring us," Halv finished darkly. The surveillance drone hovering high above shifted focus as the man picked his way through the tall red grass. The overhead cam caught everything the moment he passed the weather-bleached skull of a Tharn ox, its horn cracked down the middle. The scorched frame of Scout Vessel 204A last pinged 4 years ago, and the first subtle glint of yellow eyes peering from the forest's edge. The predator, nearly 3 meters tall. Muscle-strung limbs and overlapping bone ridges down its back. The air around it shimmered with heat. Its breath came out in slow, misted huffs. It stepped out, and the man stopped walking. The crew in the command gallery tensed. No one spoke. The human didn't run. Didn't even flinch. He blinked slowly, then raised a hand. Did he just— Roel started. The predator looked at him, not with rage, not with hunger, with something else. It lowered itself to its front limbs, and bowed. A silence hit the gallery so hard it rang. Commander Halv staggered forward, stared at the screen, and rasped, "What in the stars is he?" Nathan Coulter had not, in fact, meant to be on Vor. 2 days earlier, he'd been en route to Luma 7, carrying a stack of outdated solar coils and a belly full of synthetic beer. That was before a microcomet tore through his starboard stabilizer and slammed him sideways into the nearest gravity well. He crash-landed into what he assumed was some backwater moon. The impact knocked him out. When he came to, he was slumped over his seat, blood dry against his temple, his right hand numb and pale blue at the fingertips. He'd been out for a long time. Emergency packs were standard. He'd trained for crash survival. hydration, temperature control, signal relay, but his relay flickered red, then died. His onboard AI offered one final, helpful assessment. Comms failure, signal unstable, location unknown. The only data he could retrieve was a faint thermal scan. At the edge of its range was a bright, steady heat signature. He didn't know what it was, a station, maybe, a geyser vent? Whatever it was warmer than the inside of his ship. So he walked. His backpack carried water, half a protein loaf, and a patchy survival suit. No armor, no weapons. He couldn't afford them. His legs ached. His ribs felt bruised. Every few minutes he lost track of where he was and had to reorient. The dried blood on his face kept crusting into his eyes. By the time he reached the tall red grass, his vision had narrowed to a tunnel. He smelled the predator before he saw it. It reeked like ash and rot, tinged with something sharp and animal. He froze, slowly looked up. The creature loomed over him, huge, grotesque, steam rising off its back. Nathan's knees buckled. His brain, dazed and dehydrated, clung to a single idea. This thing is warm. He thought it was the outpost. He reached out. The creature stared at him. Its nostrils flared. It twitched its neck side to side, not with menace, but like it was puzzled. Nathan swayed forward. He didn't speak. He couldn't. The moment passed. Then the apex predator killer of dozens, terror of a continent, bowed its head. Not in threat, in recognition. On the orbital station, panic turned to confusion, then to sheer analytical fervor. He must be equipped with something, Roel said, running scans. A dampener, a chemical field. Nothing in our database makes sense of this behavior. No, look, Communications Officer Veli said. His pack see the resin coating? The station's sensors locked on. That's from an old survival harness, Rule muttered. Generation 2, those used plant-derived resin as a scent mask. It had pheromonal properties to deter native fauna. Hal frowned. That model was discontinued, caused allergic reactions in some test colonies. Belly squinted. The chemical signature. She adjusted the spectral analysis. Her screen turned a mottled shade of yellow. It matches the matriarchal excretions cataloged from the predator's nesting zone, she said slowly. Pre-extinction. Roel stiffened. You mean, that resin smells like its mother. The crew didn't speak. Keep tracking him, Hal finally said. We need to know what happens next. And on the surface, unaware of the watchful eyes above, Nathan collapsed into the red grass. The predator circled him once, lowered its head, and lay down beside him. Nathan didn't dream, not properly. He drifted in and out of dark, overheated flashes, snippets of fire, crushed metal, the creak of his cabin's bulkhead groaning under pressure. Then the world would tilt and blur, and he'd hear breathing. Not his. Deeper, thicker, and the heat radiating warmth from just a few feet away, like a sun pressed beneath skin. When he woke fully, his mouth was bone dry, his limbs stiff with fever. He lay in the copper grass, his jacket half undone, backpack tossed a short distance away. The sunlight filtered through high clouds, faint and pink. Nearby, something massive shifted. The predator. It lay curled in a crescent, spine rising and falling like a slow tide. Its eyes were closed. Nathan moved slightly. Pain lanced up his side. His right ribcage pulsed with a dull, constant throb. He lifted his hand, shaking dirt under his nails, and gently pressed along his side. When he hit the bruised spot, a cold sweat broke over him. He remembered impact, the lateral lurch of the ship as it slammed down. The crash harness had held, but not enough. He'd probably cracked at least one rib, maybe two. No displacement, but the tenderness was deep and specific. He winced and lay still. Slowly, memory and training returned. Hydration first, then triage. He rolled, barely, and dug through his backpack. The canteen was intact, 1 liter, purified, still sealed. He drank sparingly. The protein bar was half melted but edible. Only after he'd chewed through the first bite did he glance again at the predator. It was watching, not moving, just observing. He paused mid-chew. His gaze didn't feel aggressive. It wasn't even tense, like a dog watching its handler, or something waiting for a cue. It stood slowly and approached. Each step made the ground quake. Nathan stiffened but didn't run. His body wouldn't let him. His vision still swam. The creature lowered its head again, nudged his side. Nathan hissed in pain. The predator backed off, and for a long moment, nothing moved but the wind. Back on Luma 9, the surveillance feeds played on loop. The analysts worked in shifts, cross-referencing behavior tags, predator psychology, and every known encounter with Vor's wildlife. "It's not guarding him," Veli said, tracing a movement pattern with a stylus. "It's caring for him. He's injured. Look how it positioned itself between him and the tree line during the last nocturnal movement cycle." Roel nodded grimly. "It didn't even chase the hover scout we launched this morning. It saw it, turned its head, then looked back at him." Commander Half leaned forward. "Any signal from the human?" "Still nothing. His transceiver is beyond repair. The crash ruptured the external antenna. He doesn't know we're here." Halv's eyes narrowed. "He's concussed, injured. That creature could crush him with one paw, but it's showing restraint. Why?" Veli exhaled through her gills. "We need to talk about what that resin does." Roel turned to her. "The old matriarch scent lines? I thought those were wiped when the nesting fields burned out." "They were," Veli replied. "But this individual could be a last-generation male, raised under one of the matriarchs before their extinction. He might have imprinted, and now he thinks Nathan is a returning guardian." "You're saying it's protective," Halv said slowly. "I'm saying it thinks it's been reunited with something sacred, and it's not going to let him die." On the surface, Nathan struggled to his feet. He'd wrapped his ribs with a thermal pad from the med kit. Crude, not a brace, but it helped with the breathing. His steps were slow and deliberate. Every movement ached. The predator followed at a short distance, silently. Nathan didn't speak. He couldn't summon the breath. His thoughts were fogged with fatigue. But he kept walking, toward the same heat source his busted scanner still barely registered. He hoped, maybe stupidly, that someone had landed a relay station near it. As he moved, the predator cleared the path. Branches snapped, low shrubs crushed, insects scattered. The creature moved around him like a shadow, never aggressive, just present. At one point, Nathan tripped on a buried root. He fell hard, more pain bloomed down his side, and he groaned, teeth clenched. The predator came forward, reached out, and gently, with 2 clawed digits, helped him upright. Nathan stared at it, breathing heavily, pain fogging his thoughts. "What the hell are you?" he whispered. It blinked once, then nudged his shoulder with its head. It wasn't a friendly gesture, it was ritualistic, careful, like it was checking on him. He kept walking. By the 3rd planetary day, Nathan's pace slowed to a crawl. He'd been off hydration protocol too long, his lips cracked, skin flushed. Then, through the thicket movement, a glint of synthetic alloy. The heat signature he'd followed turned out not to be a rescue post but a thermal sink left by an old downed drone, still powered, venting slow residual heat. Nathan fell to his knees. His mind didn't even register disappointment, just a dull, vast numbness. The predator crouched behind him, then did something new. It roared. The sound hit the trees like thunder. Birds scattered, the ground vibrated. On Luma 9, every microphone within satellite range registered the sound. Halv stood sharply. "It's calling out. That's a broadcast." Roel stared at the amplitude chart. "To who?" "Anyone who dares to come near." "That's a territory claim, a warning." Veli adjusted the feed. "No, look again. It's not just marking territory, it's calling for help." Half looked at her. It knows he's dying, she said, and it doesn't know what to do. Halv turned toward the launch bay. Prepare a dropship, armored, manned, stealth descent. We're going down. As the sun dipped low and cast a long orange shadow over the red basin's edge, Nathan lay slumped near the thermal sink, breathing shallow. The predator curled beside him. Its body curled inward protectively, heat radiating against his chilled skin. It didn't sleep. It didn't move. He had just watched the sky, waiting. The dropship entered Vor's atmosphere under a veil of interference. It took 12 hours of atmospheric contouring to avoid detection from the predator's acute sound tracking range. Thermal vents were masked, engine output muted. Not a single piece of equipment was left to chance. Commander Halv stood strapped into the rear bay, armored exosuit powered but silent. Veli operated the external sensors, her gaze locked to the feed. Set down behind the basalt ridge, she said quietly. The predator's posture is alert but non-aggressive. No movement since the last vocalization. Roll tapped into the secondary bioscan. Human's vitals are declining, heart rate erratic, dehydration severe, rib damage progressing to respiratory distress. Halv looked out the reinforced viewport. Then we move fast. Nathan felt the pressure change before he heard the ship. The air shifted the faintest tremble across the ground. He opened his eyes, barely. His head spun. The fever had deepened. Breathing hurt. He knew this rhythm too well. His lungs were compressing, shallow, sharp. His body couldn't expand fully without the broken rib grinding deeper into tissue. He'd read about the risk, knew what came next if left untreated. The predator stood beside him, muscles tense. It growled, not in aggression, but like a warning to the approaching wind. Then the dropship came into view. It descended low, quiet as it could, landing gear fanning out against the soil without a hiss. The predator roared again, but it didn't charge. Halv, Veli, and 2 field medics emerged slowly, weapons holstered but ready. The predator stood over Nathan's limp form, its head lowered, nostrils flared. It won't move, Valley said. Let me try, Halv replied. He stepped forward, palms empty, exosuit lights dimmed. I'm not here to hurt him, Halv said firmly. We're trying to help. The creature snarled but stayed still. Alf crouched slowly beside Nathan, eyes never leaving the beast. He slipped a handheld scanner over Nathan's chest. The scan turned red instantly. Rib fracture, hypoxia onset, dehydration, and acute febrile state. He tapped his comms. We need evac protocols now. Prepare pulmonary support and IV access. The predator didn't back away. But it didn't attack. It watched Halv's every move with unblinking intensity. One of the medics advanced with a portable stabilizer. The other knelt and gently began attaching leads to Nathan's chest. Hematro-hemer heart rate dropping, she said. BP unstable. Then Nathan stirred. His eyelids fluttered, he saw lights, heard distant voices. He turned his head, barely, and saw the predator. His dry lips moved. Don't hurt it. Belly knelt beside him. We're not going to. You're safe. Stay with us. The predator growled again. Veli turned toward it. We're taking him now, she said calmly. You can follow, or you can stay. The creature moved. Slowly, deliberately. It stepped back 2 paces, then lowered its head again. The dropship lifted carefully, predator watching from the clearing below. Inside, Nathan was sedated, hooked to oxygen support and 2 IV lines. A vacuum brace stabilized his side. Fracture confirmed along rib 8 and 9, one medic noted. Contusions on the right lung, no full collapse. He's lucky. Luck didn't do this, Halv said. That thing protected him like kin. Back on Luma 9, the medbay's isolation wing was prepped within the hour. Nathan was placed under careful monitoring. Real-time imaging confirmed the rib fractures non-displaced but severe. Blood work showed clear signs of infection, stress, and a worsening electrolyte imbalance. It would take days just to rehydrate him fully, weeks before he'd move comfortably, a month or more for the ribs to heal without complications. The medical staff ran neuroscans as well. Minor concussion. The impact must have disrupted his spatial mapping. His entire behavior was survival instinct. Then why did he walk toward it? Halv asked. Thermal hallucination, the medic replied. He wasn't heading for the beast, he was tracking heat, that old drone emitter. Halv looked through the viewport toward Vor's surface. He made no idea. 3 days later, Nathan opened his eyes. He was sore, oxygen still hissing beside him, but the fog had lifted. Veli sat nearby, datapad in her lap. He turned his head. Where? Luma 9, she said gently. You're safe, stable. We've kept you under observation. He blinked slowly. The ship, it crashed. You survived, she said. More than that, you bonded with the most dangerous thing on the planet. He gave a low groan. That thing didn't kill me? No. It shielded you, walked with you, protected you. Nathan closed his eyes again. I thought it was a rescue beacon. It was, she said, just not the kind you imagined. He frowned. What happened to it? Still down there, still waiting. Back in orbit, a new observation drone was dispatched non-invasive, high altitude only. It showed the Predator pacing the red basin. Occasionally, it stopped near the old thermal sink. Once, it lay down in the same spot Nathan had collapsed. Each time a drone passed, it looked up. But it never attacked. Roy watched the footage quietly. What if it's not just imprinting, he said. Halv turned to him. What if it remembers? Roll continued. The matriarchs, the scent, the posture. It didn't just protect him, it honored him. Belly nodded. Maybe Nathan didn't survive by accident. Maybe that thing, after all this time, just missed someone. And on Vor, the Predator waited. Nathan's recovery was slow. The medical team didn't sugarcoat it. His ribs would take 6 to 8 weeks to heal fully, assuming no complications. The contusion on his lung needed constant monitoring. They ran daily respiratory assessments, kept his O2 intake at 2 liters per minute, and made him walk brief circuits with telemetry cuffs to avoid pulmonary stasis. He did everything they asked painfully, quietly, never once brushing off the severity. On the 7th day, post-retrieval, Hal visited his room. Nathan was seated by the window in a mobility chair, one arm tethered to a saline drip, the other cradling a thermal brace. You took your time, Nathan said hoarsely. Half offered the faintest twitch of amusement. Didn't want to interrupt your near-death experience. They sat in silence for a few breaths. Outside the window, Vor loomed a great green and red marble haloed in soft light. They told me what happened, Nathan finally said. The matriarch pheromone, the imprinting. Halv nodded. Accidental, but effective. That emergency resin, it made you smell like its mother, or something close enough to trigger a response. Nathan exhaled slowly. It wasn't kindness then, just chemicals. Half turned to him. It carried you 30 kilometers through Predator territory, circled you at night to keep you warm, watched the sky when you collapsed. You can call that instinct. I call it devotion. Nathan was quiet. I've seen devotion. That was something else. Halv studied him. What do you want to do now? Get better, Nathan said, then maybe go back. Halv blinked. To Vor? To the basin, he said, nodding slightly. It's still waiting, isn't it? Yes, Halv said. It returns to the sink every dusk cycle. Lies down where you collapsed. Watches the ridge line. Nathan closed his eyes. I left it there. You nearly died. I know. He leaned his head back against the rest. But I didn't. 3 weeks later, Nathan stood unaided. The brace was gone. His breathing was stable. He still had a dull ache near his side, an honest reminder of what had happened. But he'd been cleared for low-gravity recon with a medical escort. Halv approved the mission under strict protocols. No weapons, No drones, just a single shuttle, a slow descent, and eyes on every motion. Veli joined him. As the shuttle touched down at the basin's edge, the air was still. Nathan stepped out, his boots pressing into the soft red grass. The thermal sink was exactly where he'd left it, dull now, inert, but still faintly warm in the soil. He turned slowly, scanning the tree line. Nothing. Then movement. A ripple through the brush, a shape taller than any man. It stepped forward. Same creature. Same posture. Older now in his eyes, somehow. Wiser. The predator stared. Nathan stood firm, his heart raced, but he didn't flinch. He raised one hand. The predator approached slowly, watching every detail. Its breath puffed in thick clouds. Then, once again, it bowed. Nathan lowered his hand and stepped forward. 1 pace. 2. Close enough to see the faint scars across the creature's forelimbs. "I didn't mean to leave," Nathan said quietly. "I just didn't know." The predator made no sound, but it stepped beside him, curved its body slightly, not aggressive, but gently, protectively. It lay beneath the thick layers of ice it remembered. Above them, the orbital station tracked their vitals. 2 signatures, man and beast, side by side. No threat levels, no alarms, just an eerie, delicate alignment. "They're in sync," Roel noted. "Breathing, temperature, even movement patterns. It's not maternal now. It's mutual." Veli exhaled. He became something more. Nathan stayed another hour. He didn't try to touch it again. Didn't force the moment. When he turned to leave, the predator followed to the clearing's edge, then stopped. Nathan looked back. "Will you be all right?" The creature tilted its head. "I guess you always were," he said. He returned to the shuttle. Weeks passed. Vor remained untouched. No new landings were scheduled. But something shifted in the catalog. The apex predator was no longer listed as a threat level Omega. Its file had a new entry. Guardian class entity, behavioral reassessment pending. Nathan returned to orbital training. His ribs healed. The ache in his side faded. But sometimes, at night, he'd dream of red grass and low growls and warm breath on cool air.